3 seconds.
Good morning, everybody. This is Joey.
And this is Anthony.
And we are exposing corruption and toxic management at Sunline Transit Agency.
This is J&A with the Labor Code 6310, 232.5 and freedom of speech. We have a special guest, employee X. No, not employee X, employee Y. I'm sorry.
Employee Y.
You have employee Y that's with major information that needs to be exposed.
Major wealth of information.
Okay. Okay, this is J&A and employee Y. We have a guest, employee Y. Tell us your story.
Hi, Joey and Anthony. Thank you for inviting me to be here. I am a former employee of the Sunline Transit Agency, and I've been listening to your podcast, as I'm sure many current and former employees are listening. I also hope there are board members and management listening to your podcast, as it illustrates the dissatisfaction that current and former employees share while working there. I particularly wanted to come on because in your previous podcast, it has been mentioned that there are former employees that cannot speak to you as they believe they are bound by an NDA or non-disclosure agreement that they signed when they were separated. And this was part of their severance package. Let me just explain what an NDA is in a nutshell. It's an agreement that certain information will remain confidential. It does bind a person who has signed it and prevents them from discussing information with any non-authorized party. However, the NDA must be legally written to be legal. I'm bringing this to your attention because I know that the current GM, or CEO as she prefers to be called, initiated several NDAs that are not legally binding, as they didn't include all the elements of a legal NDA. And I know it sounds confusing, but let me just tell you, in particular, the NDAs that Sunline Transit Agency had put together for employees that were over 40. Over 40 is protected by the Older Workers Benefit Protection Act. And when an NDA is given to a person over 40, it requires that Sunline provide at least a 21-day consideration period before they sign it, meaning they can take the NDA, they can take a look at it and consider it. And during that time, they can say, well, I know that Sunline usually gave up to 3 months pay and 3 months insurances. So, an employee had 21 days to review that offer. And if they signed it that day, they still had a 7-day revocation period. So let's just say they signed it that day that they were terminated. And they say, you know what? I wish I wouldn't have signed it. I still have a week that I can revoke that NDA and say, nah, I don't want it after all. The 21-day period can be waived by an employee, but it still has to contain the 7-day revocation period. Unfortunately, when the GM took reins of the agency, the 21-day consideration period and the 7-day revocation period were deleted from severance agreements with NDA clauses. When I came to the agency, I reviewed the template that I was asked to put together for a terminated employee. And I noticed right away that it was missing those clauses. So I started reviewing some of the executed agreements from terminated employees before 2016. And guess what? Those severance agreements did not include the clauses required for employees over 40. When I pointed this out to the GM, She got very angry at me, informed me that she had never heard of anything that stupid, and that she was absolutely not going to include those clauses in her agreements. I was asked to draw up these agreements using the agency template without the clauses. Well, I knew these were illegal, so I went to the Deputy Chief of Administration to discuss the GM's request. She was from out of state and also had questions. So on her recommendation, we contacted the agency's attorney. At that time, it was Burke, Williams, and Sorensen, I believe. So we spoke to our attorney and let her know what we were up against. And she told us that the clause needed to be included in the separation agreements with NDAs. So she sent me the law firm's template. I printed the template and went up to talk to Lauren, as well as the attorney's recommendations. The GM instructed me to send the original agency template without the clause to the clerk of the board, and I would no longer be responsible for administering the severance agreements or writing them. I did, however, sit in on the termination meetings when the managers were directed to terminate an employee. The employees were informed they were being terminated immediately. However, if they signed the severance agreement that day that included an NDA, the agency would guarantee them consideration, in some instances up to 3 months pay and 3 months of insurances. And you know, that's pretty important for a person that is just getting fired. You're wondering, what am I going to do with insurances? So they felt they were forced to sign. I was instructed to remain silent during these separations. However, after the meetings, when I had to walk the employees, these desperate employees, to their offices to get their belongings, I encouraged every one of them to have their attorney review the illegal separation agreement they just signed. So it really breaks my heart to see that many of these terminated employees were treated like this. So I come here today to strongly encourage separated employees that were offered severance agreements to review their severance agreement. I can assure you that many of them that were initiated upon the GM's arrival and upon my separation are not legally binding. I also encourage board members to conduct an internal investigation with an outside neutral law firm to review the separation agreements that the GM initiated to ensure the legality of those agreements. If they're found to be legal, then the due diligence has been conducted. If they are not legal, you must ask yourself how many other issues have been conducted without the required legalities in other contracts. STA is a public agency with the obligation for public transparency. This isn't a private corporation. When the GM arrived, titles changed from directors to chief of staff or deputy directors. I believe hoping to run it like a private agency. In the private industry, you can get away with a lot, but in public service, you are obliged to the public you serve. I realize that the board members have supported the GM as the agency has been able to meet the required standards. However, at what cost? We are discussing loyal past employees that had worked at STA for decades. Also employees that moved to the Valley on the GM's promises and then later terminated. Read those contracts as well. These are not just disgruntled employees, but team members that were harassed and verbally beaten up. How many of us have heard the GM's liturgy of verbal abuse and F words only to be met with a severance agreement that takes advantage of our limited knowledge of NDAs and severance agreements. We really did trust those in charge to at least treat us with respect when terminating us. This did not happen. I just say, as Joey and Anthony have been placed on administrative leave, maybe the GM should also be placed on administrative leave while an internal investigation is conducted. It's owed to us, the public. There are several other issues I could bring up to the table regarding documented harassment at this time, but at this time, the issue is with the agency's termination process and illegal NDAs and the illegal bullying of terminated employees that did not have the knowledge of the legal documents that were presented to them. They had the confidence that the agency was at least trustworthy. The GM has put the agency at risk, and her dishonest practices really should be addressed.
Wow. That is amazing. The stories and truth employee Y brings to the table. I know she also has a wealth of information, worked directly with LARENSKIVER. LARENSKIVER needs to be investigated. She needs to be investigated. The board members, the ball is in your court. You guys, now that this is all coming to light, you guys need to hire an outside neutral investigator to investigate LARENSKIVER. LARENSKIVER, I know you're watching these videos. This is one of many videos, podcasts that's going to expose you for who you are. I am a driver of 26 years. I've been put on administrative leave along with Joey. Joey's an operator of 15 years. You're not scaring us off. We are going to continue to have the current and existing employees bring their story to light, because what you're doing is illegal and you will be investigated.
I would like to say that I do have names and positions of people that were given these illegal NDAs. And if anybody would like to get a hold of you, Anthony, to see if they are one of those people, I would assist in this as well. But it just has to be stopped.
I agree. It has to be. I know several individuals would like to speak out how they were mistreated and bullied and working for a hostile environment. You could just see the people cry for help.
One of the things that has changed, has been so great in the past few years, is that NDAs no longer can cover harassment or bullying or sexual harassment in the workplace. That if an employee believes they've worked in a hostile work environment and were sexually harassed in any way, I would really recommend that they talk to an attorney, or hopefully we will be able to raise enough money or to have an attorney take the case. And it looks like anything could help right now. Tell your story. Don't let this remain under the covers forever. Tell your story.
Yes, I agree. Thank you, Employee Y, for bringing a lot to light. If you guys believe in us and believe in change and exposing LARENSKIVER, we do have a GoFund page. J&A attorney fees, that money would be to pay for an attorney to conduct, I would say, a major investigation and possible class action, because the only way that LARENSKIVER is brought down by testimonies and written affidavits and individuals telling their story, because they could say, I'm a disgruntled employee, Joey's a disgruntled employee, employee Y is a disgruntled employee. You can't have 100 people that are disgruntled employees. It just, there's definitely a hostile work environment, and it needs to be told.
Thank you for having me. And once again, Sunline, you are responsible for treating our team with respect. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I forgot to turn my phone on silent, but okay, well, this is J&A. You can contact us. My number is 760-699-3516, and send me a text. If you want to share your story and your experiences with LARENSKIVER, I'm willing to bring you on the air. And the more that we expose that she's conducting a hostile work environment and belittling people and these illegal NDRs, the truth is going to come to light. You did me a favor. I mean, we're on administrative leave, but we have more time to get more individuals to expose truth, the Sunline way. These are my opinions and not Sunline opinions, and my experiences and not Sunline's experience. So with that said, this is J&A, and it's hammer time.